Black Thought, and I'm your host, Dr. Hutchinson, and you all are catching me right now. I tried to, and what we'll have to do is post this on the Facebook page for the show. What we're going to do is post several reports that have been produced concerning this whole issue of the Department of Justice. Many of you who have watched the show for some months, you already know that we did this back in June. The report that I just saw quickly was listed for June the 8th of this year. So we're going to post those findings. Those findings will interest you. We're going to touch on some of that now in our conversation, and I'm so glad that we have County Commissioner HENRI Brooks with us. It's a blessing to have her. Let me ask you this question. What did the Department of Justice say concerning juvenile court? First, again, thank you for your hard work on this.
Well, I'm just glad I was there at the right place, in the right time, and had enough of God's grace to be able to do it. But let me just say, the Justice Department, say this first, was the report they issued was a scathing report. I couldn't articulate all of the horrors of juvenile court, but the Justice Department got it all. Well, as far as violation of constitutional rights of children presented at this detention, that means those children brought to detention, and those children presented to the magistrates. They didn't go into all of the areas of the complaint. They sort of narrowed their investigation and focused on children, the constitutional rights of children. They found that juvenile court violated the constitutional rights of children, lack of due process, lack of equal protection, no protection against self-incrimination, no protection against self-harm, and it goes on. It gets worse down the line. But another thing that they said that our audience needs to really be cognizant of and remember is that juvenile court was found by the Justice Department to treat black children 6 times worse. Through every phase of juvenile court, from detention to probation counseling, even to an adjudicatory hearing, black children fared worse than white children. This is in the report.
Because the language, and I'm going to read it, it says the agreement also requires the juvenile court to take steps to reduce racial disparities among similarly situated juveniles in different stages of the juvenile justice process. That's just what you said.
That's just what I said, but even in another report, it's even plainer. It's even plainer. They actually say that black children are treated worse. So I think that was in that report that was issued April 26th, the very first one. But it also showed in that April 26th investigative report, and they came here and investigated in 2009 through 2010 and 11, and they found one of the things that's very shocking: some of the laws that we had on the books regarding juvenile procedure were unconstitutional. Let me give you the backdrop on that. Now, guess who was sitting in Nashville for 30 years as chairman of the judiciary and passing laws on the juvenile procedure? Curtis Person, now the judge of the juvenile court, who was, during the time of Kenneth Turner, the chief referee. Kenneth Turner was a judge. Curtis Person was a chief referee, made $100,000 a year plus, and only worked at juvenile court one day, was in Nashville 4 days. Kenneth Turner wrote out the laws that he thought he wanted, that was suitable for him, that he was comfortable with, and Curtis Person took him to Nashville and got them passed. When the Justice Department looked at those juvenile procedure laws, they said that, some of these are unconstitutional. And that's what they were using. What they're using at juvenile court.
And this says that this agreement is the first time that the Department of Justice has used its authority under the Violent Crime Control Law Enforcement Act of 1994 to address constitutional violations within the juvenile justice system. So this, and I'm interrupting an audience, I'm saying this to you because I want you to understand the scope of this thing. This is not just the Department of Justice or Henry Brooks saying that you are treating black folk unfairly and we don't like it. These are constitutional violations. So that means that a legal system
Right.
is violating the Constitution and the constitutional rights of its citizens. We are 71%, because they always undercount black folk.
Right.
We are 71% in the city. We're roughly 60% in the county. And the issue is that our rights have been abused in the juvenile court for years. That's what this says. Go right ahead.
That is so important. And that's what this says. And we know that, through the grapevine. As you said earlier, the community has heard about this, and then we've talked about this. It's been like a whisper campaign. But now, you can come out and voice, your concerns about how they're doing. Are they doing what the Justice Department said? Because now the Justice Department has said they have validated your concerns. They have validated the grapevine, if you will. So now it is your opportunity. This is our window of opportunity. In the backdrop of the Justice Department investigation of juvenile court that found them guilty, I'm going to use the word guilty, of violating the constitutional rights of children. Right. And this is an entity, an institutional, a justice institution, juvenile justice institution that's supposed to protect the rights of children. And they've been found by the Department of Justice to violate the rights of children. There is no confidence in juvenile court. There is no trust that we can ever put in juvenile court.
But now, let's go here. The Department of Justice has given, what is it, about a year window?
Well,
explain that whole process.
Now, the Justice Department has given them, depending on the finding, they had 60 days to reform some of the low-hanging fruit, like, get some of those wires and pipes and those kinds of things in the room that children use to commit suicide. That's low-hanging fruit. Get all of that out, that kind of thing. And then they had 60 days to complete some other things. Start to recruit people to be on your Juvenile Justice World Consortium so that you could have let the community know what's going on, so that you could be transparent and accountable. You see, there's never, ever been any transparency or accountability on the part of juvenile court. In fact, Judge Turner thought he was above it, and Curtis Person has somehow, well, in my opinion, he has that same elitist, arrogant attitude that we don't need to be accountable to anyone. But you see, to the public, the county commission spends your tax dollars on juvenile court, so they need to be accountable. They should be accountable. So now the Justice Department has also told them that you must appoint representation for every child that goes to a detention hearing. They need to have the opportunity to have an attorney. When the child goes to a probation counseling session, they need to have representation, plus the counselor must Mirandize the child. I never heard of that when I was doing probation counseling. It was never in any of our manuals. All that means is that you inform the child of their rights. And you have the right not to say anything. It is so fundamental.
Yeah.
We never did it. And the other thing the Justice Department said is that within 60 days, you must also institute detention hearings on the weekend. Let me tell you this. What happened was they bring a child in on Friday, and that child will sit the whole weekend.
That's it.
And then they'd have a detention hearing at 1:30 each day. Well, if they brought me in, they picked me up because I looked like somebody, or somebody had said I did something. Well, let's just say I was just totally guilty. This is my first time being at juvenile court. I'm there for the entire weekend. First of all, they put me in an orange jumpsuit, just like the adult prisoners. That doesn't fit. And then, of course, I'm subjected to those mechanisms, those psychological mechanisms that you see on TV that they do to adult prisoners. My hands are shackled behind me. And then they put me in the sandals with the white socks. All of this is psychological, you understand? You are doing a psychological number on our children. But just think, this is an innocent child. Never been in trouble before, never seen, and then they put them in the cell. Can you imagine the kind of trauma that this child will experience, never having done that, and then the child is innocent, but you can't talk to anybody? Then the juvenile court told them also, the child has the right to inform, their parents have the right to be informed as soon as law enforcement or juvenile court puts their hands on the child. Juvenile court failed to do that. They would keep children on the weekend and then let the parents know, oh, your child is getting ready to go to detention. Oh, it was such a blatant violation of constitutional rights of children. Quite frankly, when I read it, even though I filed the complaint, put the complaint together, reading what the Justice Department said, it was even more horrific. So now what we have, they have some demands, and then, of course, the last thing, of course, in a year, they are supposed to have community surveys, and they are supposed to ask the community, what do you think about juvenile court? Have they improved? Well, let me just say, Pastor, no. As I said to you earlier, they are checking boxes and moving papers, just doing enough to get by because they think their way is the right way. They do. It's a culture down there that has to be changed. And the culture down there, they're not going to change their minds. We're not going to change their minds. The Justice Department is not going to change that culture. That culture can only be changed through the political process. It's an institution. Their thinking is institutionalized, and it's based and rooted in institutionalized racism because that's how they've operated, and they have never given up or even tried to follow the federal standards that other courts follow, or even the federal standards that have been set by DOJ.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the prescription to correct this is really political. Are there any things that the regular average person can do to kind of help this situation? Because what we're going to do is post today the various informations, the committee that's supposed to be over all of this development. We're going to let you see what's going on. And the bottom line is, for those who are watching, they've addressed a lot of the low-hanging fruit, but a lot of the more substantive things have not been addressed at all. You'll see that in the report.
Right.
So what can we do?
Well, let me give them an example of one thing they have not addressed, and that is the disproportionate number of black children that are being brought to detention, the disproportionate number of black children who are being transferred as adults, transferred to adult jail or tried as adults. And some of these babies, and I'm going to say babies because I'm 64, if you're 14, I can't say that. They are sending them to adult court without giving them the opportunity of a broader scope of inquiry into, what this alleged offense, how this occurred. Not just that he went and took the bottle, but what's in the background of the child, educational background. What is the home life like? What is does the child have a history of any kind of acting out, ADHD, has the child been seen by a therapist? Has the child been prescribed any medication? Is the child taking medication? Oh, that's another thing the Justice Department told them. You must do a psychological assessment on every child that's presented to juvenile court. Now, Pastor, that only makes sense. That is common sense. Yeah. Why would you bring in a child in juvenile court without doing some kind of psychological assessment? You need to know what you got.
Let's look at it this way, and then I want to kind of segue into something else. But let's look at it this way. When you're dealing with a child, there's the potential for rehabilitation.
Well, that's where the emphasis should be on rehabilitation.
And I'm going to give you a perfect example from the turn of the last century.
Okay.
There was a young man that was shooting a gun in the air on New Year's Eve. He got busted.
Yeah.
He got arrested. I don't remember his exact age. I'm thinking he was somewhere around the age of between 8 and 12. But he, in essence, went to juvenile court of his day.
Yeah.
They put him in a home, right? But at that home, they taught him music. He picked up the trumpet, and the world has never been the same. I'm talking about Louis Armstrong. Now, what would have happened if rehabilitation had not happened in his life?
You know, and that's what the Justice Department is saying. The emphasis should be on rehabilitation because they are children. Children's brain develops slowly. Even if they do commit these horrific crimes. I'm not condoning that, but we're talking about, always keep in mind, you're talking about children whose brains are still developing. So if you want to punish them right there, just, you know, the first offense or the second offense or the third, without having a global or more universal look at their background, at their life circumstances, then what you're seeing is that they are not worthy of rehabilitation, that they need to be punished. But you see, you have to understand that punishment line. See, that's all about that private prison pipeline. That's all that is, the 2 P's. Punishment and private prison, 3 P's. Okay.
Well, prison industrial complex.
There you
because
go.
now, when you deny these rights and you mock these children, then they go in the pipeline. Excuse me. And once you get in as a felon or you have a record that can't be expunged, it's hard to get out.
It is.
Hard. But let me segue to something else, and then we're going to come back to something about juvenile court in a minute. In the time that we have left, what are some of the issues, because you're on the county commission.
I am.
And I don't want to get into the minutia of temporary scuttlebutt, because that serves no purpose. You know, we get in the sound bites. But at this point where we are as a community, we need some substance.
We do.
What are some of the issues that the average citizen needs to be aware of and keep their eyes open in terms of dealing with some of those things?
You know, from where I sit as chairman of the Community Services Committee, it has come to my attention, it's maybe a year or so ago, that Shelby County received a federal review. That means the feds came down to review our Head Start agency and found a number of troubling things, issues with Head Start, which caused the feds to say, we're not going to just give you your Head Start contract. You will have to recompete. That is, you got to start all over and show us how you're going to do better. So you got to get in. You got to get in line and get into the process with all the other people. So, you know, we're in the process with people from Arizona, Kentucky, Minnesota, whatever, who want to take our Head Start. The reason this has happened is because, now you know, Shelby County government is the administrator for Head Start. We have a director, but Shelby County government has not paid attention to Head Start because it's been a long, well, let me back up. When I first came to the county commission, we learned that there was a move afoot to give Head Start to Port Elise. Well, you know, there was not sufficient justification for that, and then that was not a good policy move for us to approve, because giving those children to Port Elise meant that a number of people would be fired. And these were lower middle class people, upper middle class people, and a lot of the people who work for Head Start, black and white, have children in Head Start. So you wipe that out. Now what has happened is back again. You see, they never forgot about their plan. What they've decided now is that the county is trying to decide that they want to give up Head Start. Maybe we don't want to recompete.
So let me understand what you just said. So Head Start would not be in public control under the county control, but Head Start would be for the county under private control.
Porter-Leaf.
Yeah, Porter-Leaf. So this is similar to what happened when you had the whole, I think it was Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely.
Christ
Community. Absolutely.
And Christ Community has stipulations and have things that go against the grain of what they're about, namely abortion, contraception, and and this is about the right to choose. This is not about proselytizing. So
right.
While you hear me raise these things, you're saying, Pastor, why are you raising that? It's because when you look at the public trust, you have to treat the public trust as public. You
Absolutely.
can't treat it as if it's your church.
It's your
because everybody's not a Christian. Matter of fact, Jesus said, behold, I stand at the door and knock, but we want to kick it in. Jesus is knocking, but we want to kick it in.
Absolutely.
See? So there's a difference. So it sounds like it's a similar type vibe.
It is.
And right now it seems like people are crying that they gave it to Christ community because of how things have been going. So
let me just add to that just one little small thing. It was brought to my attention that Christ Community, because they're so inflexible, and this is Henry Brooks talking, and their services are more narrow than Planned Parenthood, that they ended up giving $2.5 million back to the state. When we have all of these people, let me give you one example. HIV/AIDS testing. That's something that Planned Parenthood does. Most people don't know that. Most people have a misconception about Planned Parenthood. No, I'm not on the board. And so they think that they just have one service that they offer. But we need to understand, particularly in our community, that HIV/AIDS is on the rise in the black female population, because you have men coming back. You see, when people go to jail, a lot of people go to jail and they stay a few days because they can't pay their bond, so they may end up months. A lot of them go there because they don't have representation. It takes a long time to get representation. Doesn't mean, they haven't even been before a court or had a probable cause hearing to determine guilt or innocence. But in the meantime, something happens in the jail, and we have to take our heads out of the sand. There's promiscuous conduct going on, and so we have to realize that is a reality. So
and
since we
there's
know
some rape
that,
going on
there's
too.
A lot of rape going on. We need to realize that. But a lot of them want to get tested, but they don't have the opportunity. Let me just finish. And the people, and I'm putting these two together because this is coming before my committee also. The contractor that has the contract to deal with the inmates, the testing that they do is not private. They ask individuals HIV/AIDS testing, out in public. How many of you would like to get an AIDS test? Well, you're going to raise your hand here. You got 50 men in the room. So anyway, so as you said, there's some raping going on. One of the things that we proposed was to just give out condoms. It's not that we're condoning it, but it's happening. And men are coming back. They don't know that they have it. Some do, some don't. And then it's infesting.
Spreading with their women.
Spreading in our community, and that's why a lot of black women, you see that the numbers are rising. So I'll jump from there, and then I'll get back over to what else is happening. We have got to save our Head Start. The county does not want Head Start, or I can say, this is Henry Brooks, I can say that the county wants to give Head Start to one of their good old boys. It's about money, Pastor. It's about money. It's about jobs. And I've been told, the mayor did not tell me this, but I will ask him on Wednesday when he comes to my committee meeting that...
That's Mayor Luttrell.
Luttrell.
Okay, keep going.
Mark Luttrell. I will ask him the status of the recompete application. I will ask him if, in fact, we are considering giving Head Start to a private company, namely Porter-Leaf. Are you going to be an advocate for the existing employees to get jobs over at Porter-Leaf, or are you going to allow the employees who have been there 20, 30 years to fall by the wayside? What's your plan? Just what's up with our Head Start? And let me just say this to you. If we lose Head Start, I tried to say it before. We'll decimate our lower middle class and our middle class. We will see. We think it's a lot of people on receiving minimal food stamps now. You're going to have more. People are going to be without jobs who've had jobs. People are going to lose their homes. A lot of children will be without because Puerto Rico will cherry pick. They can do that once they get the contract. Mm-hmm. And it will be under the sanctioning of Mark Luttrell. So I'm saying to you, I will post the time, or you can go online to County Commission and get the time of the Community Services Standing Committee meeting. It will be Wednesday. And what day is Wednesday, Pastor? That will be what?
This upcoming Wednesday?
This upcoming
the 18th.
Wednesday. The 18th. It will be Wednesday, the 18th, community service. You need to be there because I know you got some questions. You must have questions. We can't lose Head Start. That is a major employer in our community. Not only does it employ people who are serving our children, teaching our children, but also vendors who sell the various commodities, products, and what have you to Head Start. People who come in as consultants, people who come in and work with our children as special education people or special consultants for special needs children. It's a lot going on with Head Start. That's why they want to get in the business of Head Start. Now, it's 90%. And 99% black. Same thing go with our school system. You ask about some things we need to be concerned with on the county commission. We need to be concerned with our school system. What's going to happen? Dorsey Hobson, Superintendent Hobson has some challenges before him right now, but it's only 1 year. You see, he got 1 year. And what I believe is that I think you can survive a year of challenges because once this year is over, the municipals are gone. And it's going to be a new environment. And I bring that up because I've asked, and I'm just going to put it out there. I put it all out there because I'm a public person. I have nothing to hide. I'm very transparent. Yes, I did send Superintendent Hobson an email and ask him if he would be willing to partner with a community education organization so that we could save our Head Start. We're not asking the school system to put out any money. We might need some in-kind buildings or something like that, but it would be worth you doing that to save jobs, to save our middle class. Also, as I said earlier, this little challenge that you may have right now with the municipals and all that will be for 1 year, and then next year you get a whole new ball game.
And now let me put my little spin in that too. And I may be the minority report in this, but I think that the municipal districts are not going to be able to sustain education. So I think that they may start, but they won't be able to sustain it because the expenses are too high. And I'm not even talking solely about buildings. I'm talking about things like insurance.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about the fact that, for example, in Germantown people, I'm not harping on you because I'm against you, but this is just a real simple example. I've heard the figures are either 8,000 or 4,000. Not totally clear on which one it is, but it is said that you had either 4,000 or 8,000 students that were going to school in Germantown. But what's not told is half of those students were from unincorporated Shelby County.
There you go.
So now you won't get those students in this new system. So perhaps the only municipality that could probably sustain itself, because Germantown's starting to skew older, some others are not big enough. Lakeland has one school. They're supposed to be partnering with Arlington, but they have one school. So here's the thing. Out of all the municipalities, maybe Collierville's the only one that can sustain it, but the rest of y'all can't sustain it. I don't think they can sustain it once the final bill comes in. So
they need some unincorporated. Unincorporated is going to be like really a prize. They're all.
But see, it's a prize that's gone because now it's under the county.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is now I wasn't here, but you know more the history of this. When you had desegregation,
Oh, yeah.
you had John P. Freeman,
Uh-huh.
which originally was not in the school district. You had Fairleigh, that wasn't originally in the school district. You had all of these separate schools cropping up everywhere, and some of these most elite private schools that we have now cropping up, right? Now, most of those schools are in the school system. Hear what I'm telling you. Now you have people like Brian Kelsey and others and even the governor, but I think the governor was trying to stem the tide, but it's not working. They're pushing for school vouchers.
Yes. Yes.
So you got all of this stuff going on. What I'm trying to show y'all is when the smoke clears on this thing, I'm not saying municipal districts won't happen, but to sustain them is going to take money. So there may be some plans afoot to help that money, but all over the country, tax bases are not doing this. They're doing this.
That's right. That's right.
So we might want to check this one out and pay attention to it. We've been sleeping at the wheel. I'm gonna just be honest. For the last 20 years in education, in both the county and the city, we've been sleeping at the wheel.
You know, we have been, and I want, you know, I really wish that there was some words that I could say to wake us up. On education issues, pre-K issues, those are so important because, you know, who you have your children in the company of as teachers, if you will, for 7, 8 hours, 8.5 hours a day is really critically important. It will determine a larger part of their future, whether they learn, whether they do not learn, and what they learn.
Exactly.
A lot can happen. So what we really need to do is be very careful when next year comes. Next year is an election year, okay, 2014. You will be electing some school board members. You know, there's some questions you need to ask. And if you want to get a list of those questions or want me to tell you, you can always contact me at the county commission, or you can get one of these little cards here.
Oh, yeah, we're going to hit that hard in a minute.
But you can reach me at 857-6443. But let me just say this to you. You need to ask those questions that concern you about the school system, about pre-K, and if we still have our Head Start, and I pray that we do, but we won't have it unless you all get up, unless the public, the people who are stakeholders, who have children in Head Start, who know that Head Start does a good job of educating our children and gets them at least a head start in elementary education. You need to be at the county commission meeting, community services meeting on Wednesday, and ask Mark Luttrell those questions about our Head Start and what's going to happen to it. Also, school board, you need to make sure you get school board members who are going to represent your concerns. You're concerned about special education, then you need to make sure that the person that's asking you for their vote, for your vote, has the same concern about special ed. And then find out what do they plan to do regarding special education, or optional, or accelerated, or gifted, or whether or not they plan to have meetings to let you know about the changes in the school system before they happen. That is critical.
Exactly. Exactly. But now we're getting ready to go, but I want to show y'all something. You see this? Henry Brooks. Yeah, let me do it. Oh, they're getting it. Henry Brooks, County Commissioner Henry Brooks, will be running for juvenile court clerk. The election is next August, but she is making her plans and she is asking for your vote today. Yes. So you see this?
Thank you.
We'll also post this so that you can see it. So think about what she has done concerning juvenile court. Think about how she has labored concerning juvenile court and our children, and take that with you when you go to the polls. Well, we're going to have to leave it here. This has been a blessing.
I've enjoyed it so much. Will you invite me back again?
You have a carte blanche invitation anytime you get ready to come through here. Matter of fact, I was so excited, I left my trademark hat, but I can still do my job. So we're getting ready to sign out. Pretend I have the hat on my head. Brother man, sister woman, young boy, young girl, put your mind in gear and put your thinking cap on. Peace. I just had a black thought. Put your mind in gear and put your thinking cap on.